Hi, this is James Amon Full Capital, and I'm here with Grant Williamson of BBG. Grant, how's it going?
Good, man. Good.
En-
How are you?
enjoying the heat down here in Dallas with me. I appreciate you jumping on. Maybe to kick it off, give people a little bit of your background and then what BBG does.
I work at BBG. We are a full service third party real estate company. So we offer basically any third party report that goes along with the real estate transaction. I focus on valuation and then more specifically than that, apartments.
Okay. So how long have you been doing that here in Dallas?
Oh man, I think 11 years now. Yeah, almost
If you
12.
were to, I didn't prep you for this, but if you were to ballpark, how many appraisals did you guys do last year?
My team or
Yeah.
BBG? My team
Either
did.
one, whatever you have, just rough. Give people an idea of
Uh,
sort of scale here
yeah,
of the operation.
Sure. So I've got 7 people on my team. We did about 550 to 600, I think.
Okay, so that's almost two a day. Uh,
Yeah, it's about two a day. Yeah.
yeah. So I think a lot of people are wondering sort of what's going on with the market. I know this summer it felt like a little bit of a slowdown on the acquisition side. I mean, I guess give us a little insight on what you're seeing because you guys are busy not only with acquisitions but refis and sort of pinpointing a value. Obviously, you have to look a little bit in the rearview mirror on these appraisals, but tell us what you're seeing on the appraisal side right now.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a whirlwind of the summer. I'd say right around May is kind of when the 10 year started to move so much that everyone started to pay attention. And then, I feel like every week since then it's been different. It's, oh no, we're at 3.2, and then, you know, the debt products are changing, and then fast forward, now we're down to like 2.6 or 2.6, 2.7. So, things are getting a little more active in the refi market for that reason. But I mean, we've had a decently busy summer. I mean, there's still acquisitions, there's not as many, but the refis are kind of filling in where those left off.
And we talked a little bit about this beforehand, but at the beginning, I mean, I just look back at deals we closed in 2021 and maybe the first half of 2022, and majority of those loans were bridge loans because they were 75-80% levered, SOFR plus 300, 325. And so that probably was a lot of your business, and they were looking at in place um as is value and then a stabilized value. Talk about, I mean, we're seeing a lot more Fannie Freddie volume right now. I guess how are those appraisals different, or what are those guys focusing a little bit more on?
So yeah, I mean, from I'd call it 2012 to 2018, 80% of our work was agency. And then, slowly it started, more doing more and more bridge work all the way up until, December 2021, where it was almost all of our work. Freddie and Fannie were doing, very little work compared to what they used to, and compared to, basically the same product, right? It's like, that class B stuff was completely flipped on where they were going for debt. And then, yeah, so now it's kind of, stopped on a dime and switched back the other way. Now that, leverages are so much lower. And so, as far as how the appraisal looks and what's different, I mean, generally an agency appraisal is a little more straightforward just because all we're looking at is, in place operations as is value today, whereas a bridge deal typically we're asked to provide a year 3 value, which takes a little more engineering. So it's it's definitely something that is a welcome surprise for people on my team. The bridge work is a little more tedious, and they're excited to be doing the bread and butter again. So
What I guess let's take it from the point of view someone buying a deal, they're doing an acquisition, they feel like they got a good price on the deal. What are some of the issues that potentially you could run into, whether it's taxes, whether it's insurance, maybe it's market rents. Um, Maybe talk through some of those, that maybe hot buttons that come up either between you and the lender, or between even like you and the buyer.
Taxes and insurance. Yeah, I mean, I'd say insurance is kind of like a known problem, right? Whereas taxes is it's kind of anyone's best guess, especially as an acquisition, um, because the counties are so inconsistent from county to county, and then even more granular than that, property to property. You have a class B deal that got reassessed at 65% next door to one that got reassessed at 100%. So figuring out where they're going to be is anyone's best guess, and so there's a lot of back and forth on that. I mean, you know, diving more into taxes, another issue is on the refinances, because what most people don't know is we have to, as appraisers, underwrite to taxes assuming a sale. So, if a property is getting a pretty big break on taxes and they're doing a refi, the biggest question is, well, why can't you underwrite to in place? Well, if this sold tomorrow, it's not going to stay at where it is. So we've kind of had to get creative there. I mean, basically, in the reports now, we're just telling the reader, hey, they're not going to have a big increase, but for the necessary definition of appraisal market value, we have to underwrite to this, right? So, but just trying to tell everyone involved in the transaction, look, you can do what you want as far as underwriting, but as far as how we have to underwrite it, this is how it is. But I mean, on the other side, I think next year is going to be very interesting on taxes, because as we talked about, leverages are coming down, right? And so how these counties are getting purchase prices or getting close to them and then reassessing is they're pulling loan docs and then using, a typical, LTV, right? So they use 75% or 80%, whatever they feel like is typical, and they're backing in purchase prices, calling that the assessed value. Well, this last 6 months and probably going forward for at least the next 6 months, leverages are down. So they're going to find the loan back into it 75 probably, and then it's really 60, 65. And so assessments are going to come in lower, I think, next year, which will be a big break for, anyone who bought anything in 2022.
So buyers will finally have a break on property taxes, what you're telling me?
Don't hold me to that. Like, I'm gonna get some hate. I'm gonna get some hate emails next year when it doesn't happen. But yeah, I think that. I mean, that's just using logic, I think. But guessing what
And
these counties do is
and you're based in Dallas, but you guys do appraisals all over Texas, all over the nation. Maybe for the audience, if you had to give like a couple sentence snapshot of each city or MSA, and sort of what your thoughts are, what are you seeing in those markets, and you can start with the easiest and go either direction. So
in Texas or all over
in
the country.
Texas, yeah, if you were to do the four sort of major markets in Texas, sort of what you're seeing in those markets, either at a high level or at a detailed property level. Happy to hear your thoughts on those different markets.
Yeah, Dallas and Austin are pretty similar. I mean, they're kind of at different levels, but they're both on fire, and there's tons of job growth in both those markets, and you can't build them fast enough for the demand. So I mean, fundamentally, the numbers are still great there, and that's where we're seeing the majority of the acquisitions. Houston's still okay. I mean, it's kind of chugging along. It really depends on the submarket and the deal itself. There's still good buys to be had there, but there's also some properties that have struggled, COVID, and then never really stopped struggling. San Antonio's hot, but it's different. People are buying more on the upside in San Antonio, and I think hopefully that start to realize, because a lot of what they're underwriting to is, well, okay, this is a major MSA. These rents are just so low, it doesn't make any sense compared to every other MSA. So that's kind of the play there.
Is there any, I guess, any tips for, a lot of times the lender engages you guys, and then you might meet the borrower out there potentially or buyer out there. Um, any any good stories on appropriate ways for buyers to talk to appraisers and maybe inappropriate ways for buyers to talk to appraisers?
Talk,
I mean, I don't know how many tours, like I go on a lot of tours, but I think you go on more tours than I do. So any stories that you have from the past maybe 12, 24 months?
yeah, I mean, I think the best way to do it is, hey, just don't contact me. If you're under application, just don't. I mean, it causes more issues than it helps.
Yeah.
You have people working for your loan that,
Yeah.
can contact me in the appropriate ways, and they're working in your best interest. When it closes, give me a call anytime. I'm happy to help. And if you have any questions about a market or if you're looking at a deal, I'm happy to help. But when you're in that loan process, it just can muddy things up, and it might not look as great, even if there's nothing nefarious going on. So as far as tours go, let's see. 6 months ago, I was on a property and I turn a corner and I hear like a snort. I'm like, what was that? And I turn, and there's this, like, I'm not kidding, James, like a 200-pound pig just sitting there. And I'm like, is this like a resident pig? And they're like, no, that is the property pig. Like, I guess this pig had been here for like 20 years and like just roamed the property freely, like everyone's pet. It was kind of funny.
What city was that in?
It was in Dallas.
It's in Dallas.
Yeah,
That's why people from New York who come to Texas, that's what they're expecting when they hear stories like that. It's
right.
like just
Yeah.
pigs walking around.
There's a giant potbelly pig. Yeah.
Well, Grant, I appreciate you guys sponsoring the Old Capital Conference coming up here in September. Um, I guess any final remarks or I mean, you've been to a couple of these conferences. Any favorite conversations or meetings with anybody or any of the speakers that you can remember the past couple years?
I mean, a lot of the people there I see all the time, so and then it was good 2 years ago or a year ago because I feel like we hadn't seen very many people because of COVID. So that was fun. Lou Holtz was a fun meet. A few years ago. What was that, 3 years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2019, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun. But yeah, it's such a good time. I mean, it's like kind of like a big fraternity. We've all been doing the same thing for, a long time now. So it's good to see everybody.
Well, I appreciate you guys sponsoring and we'll get this out here out to everybody. So I appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'll see you.